Yo, 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 yo. Hey, guys. Welcome back to another awesome edition of the Best Practices Show podcast. My name is Kirk Behrendt, where we're going to continuously bring you great thoughts to help you improve your practice and improve your life from some people that are doing some pretty cool stuff. And today, I introduce you to a new friend, Dr. Stephen Kupferman. He has created a solution, not the solution, but a solution for the Great Resignation. Do you hate that term? And it hasn't been more difficult than ever to figure out how to handle the labor challenges. Well, this is a great episode. He shares his insight and some of the things that he did as a possible solution to some of the challenges you're dealing with. So hope you guys enjoy the episode. We'll see you soon. Hey guys, welcome back to the Best Practices Show podcast. You know what's so fun? I just appreciate you guys showing up. And our show is about one thing, just helping you find great resources, great thinkers, great leaders in dentistry to help you create a better practice and a better life. And if you're tired of hearing this phrase, the Great Resignation, I know you've heard it a lot. I have. We might have a solution for you. So I got a new guest on today, and in full transparency, Stephen, you and I have never met. Stephen Kupferman. So you're an oral surgeon in California. Is that correct?
That's correct.
All right, cool. I love just winging it. So tell our listeners, I want to know, give us a little bio, because my team did some research and I'm like, this guy's got some good stuff. So I'm like, get him on. So who are you? What do you do? Give us a little background.
Sure. So I'm an oral and maxillofacial surgeon. I practice in Los Angeles. I went to dental school and medical school and did a oral and maxillofacial surgery residency program. And then I worked for Kaiser Permanente, a large medical conglomerate here in California for a couple of years. And then I opened up a private practice of oral and maxillofacial surgery from scratch in 2009 and grew it to now 6 surgeons and all in one office, a very unique practice. And somewhere along the way, I realized that I needed to have an answer to the predecessor to the Great Resignation, which was dealing with a lot of people and a lot of staff. And that's kind of where things are at. And I'm still practicing full time. I see patients 4 days a week. I operate 2 days, and I do a clinic where I see consultations and follow-ups the other 2 days a week. And then I have one day where I just kind of do some of my own thing, go to the cleaners, get a haircut, things like that.
Well, I like your haircut, so it's pretty easy, That's awesome.
It is. It's quick. It's quick.
That's awesome. So I'm guessing you were working on this before COVID. This was something that was, give us a little state of the union, so you've done some remarkable things since 2009. That's quite the business you've built. So what prompted you to do this, from the old, situation to the new situation? What prompted it?
Yeah. So I have I love oral surgery. It's a passion of mine. I just enjoy every day of it. And, after several years, when you get your, thousands of hours under your belt, surgery becomes pretty easy. Even the more complicated surgeries become easy. You don't have to, read up on things before. And the most complicated part of my practice became running it. I have great partners, but I had always done the management for the practice, and I enjoyed it. It was something that I liked doing, that I was good at. But it just got to a point where there were just too many people. I had so many, real estate is expensive in LA and Century City, and just dealing with people's personalities in the office, showing up, not showing up, managing the day to day, and having all these tasks that are on our plates, and trying to get the manpower to get them all done, just became the hardest thing for me to do. So I just started to try to find out other ways in which that could be done. And I'm an avid reader of the White Coat Investor. And I saw something there, and I saw a few other, maybe pop-ups or things about using virtual staff to help grow and scale businesses and practices. I just started doing it, and I ran with it, and then ultimately started my own company, doing the same thing.
Yeah. And so naturally there's a lot of resistance and stories you tell yourself with virtual stuff, like how the heck they gonna even understand what we're doing. I'm sure you went through all that, right?
Oh yeah. I mean, you just go back and forth in your mind. Can I do this? Can I not do this? Are they going to be able to do this? Are they not going to be able to do this? How are they going to help me? Is it worth the money? Security, I'm not going to meet them. Who are they? But sometimes you just got to take a leap of faith and try something out, and you won't know that whether it's effective or not until you actually try it. And that's really what happened with me. I had this incredible first virtual assistant who still works for me to this day, who was just so dedicated. He was one of the, he to this day is one of the best employees I've ever had. Just does everything that he can to make my life easier, make my practice run better. And he actually runs all of my virtual assistants in my office, of which I have somewhere in the 13, 14, 15 of them. And he's the manager. He manages all of them and manages most of the practice, actually. And I just took a leap of faith on him, and he's just been great. He's been an incredible assistant for me. And so, yeah, you just really have to take a leap of faith on it.
Yeah. So break down some of the tasks. My first thought is like, I just need somebody to organize my personal life, and do a lot of those things. Did you delineate between personal and professional? And then did you start breaking down some of the tasks with obviously a surgical assistant that might be a little tough to do virtually? But what were some of the tasks that came to mind right away when you started to do this?
Yeah. Well, first, the first thing was really to just get life in order a little bit, try to get a hold of things and put things in perspective, and teach him, and then the subsequent ones, a little bit about oral surgery. They usually just come knowing about medicine, and, they're medical professionals in the Philippines. And, so initially I would just, kind of got them on board and, gave them materials. I purchased some courses and things like that, and had them review it. And the great thing about a virtual assistant is everything's recorded. So you can just record your training sessions with them, and then that institutional memory gets passed on very easily. So once I started to, get things under control, the easiest thing to give them was things like getting benefits and revenue cycle stuff. I mean, that has become, in my mind, something that should not be done by somebody sitting and taking up real estate in your office. That's a job that should be done remotely, from start to finish. And so that was really where things got started. And that's the easiest way to really get into the virtual assistant space, is to have them do revenue cycle, benefits verification, and things like that.
Yeah. Because I have so many questions. Like, we could take this and make this a 3-hour show, but like the average benefits verification phone call, like, you probably have some data on that. Like, how long is that? I've heard some people talk about it. Give us some insight.
Well, yeah, I mean, it's really you're at the mercy of the company that you're calling. They are often hampered by the Great Resignation more so than the dental office is, and so they don't have people to answer phones. Most of their work is also done offshore, and sometimes that you can wait 15 minutes just to get somebody on Delta Dental or somebody on some sort of other payer. So So 15 minutes is a good day, I think, for benefits verification. Unless you're using some sort of online portal, which oftentimes you don't really trust anyway, or most offices don't trust, especially if you're doing a big case of some sort. So, so 15 minutes is par. I think for benefits verification, and it could be longer. So that's what we've seen, and so that's what we've done. We've utilized our offshore team to do that exclusively, and that's been fantastic. But that's really just where it starts, I think, because that's really the easiest thing to do.
Yeah. So you started there. Where did it grow and evolve to?
Well, it evolved. Once I realized that I knew that this was something that was big, I actually just picked up and went to the Philippines. I went there and I met my virtual assistants. And what was so interesting to me was, the country is really, this is their industry. We're here in LA, it's Hollywood. In Michigan, it's the auto industry. In the Philippines, in Manila, it's virtual assistants. That's their business. And I remember when I got there, I showed up at the hotel and I had 3 or 4 at the time, and they were like waiting there for me. And they like grabbed, I'm 6'4", I'm a big guy. They were much shorter than me. They grabbed my arm and said, "Dr. Kupferman, you're real. I mean, to them, we were as virtual to them as they are to us,
Wow.
And so it was, it was just amazing to see the gratitude that they had for the work that I was providing to them, and how seriously they took it. And once I met them and spent a lot of time, I said, this is the next big thing, and I just sort of took it on, and to answer your question, I went from there to accounting, and to bookkeeping, and to marketing, and to HR, and scribing, and letters and notes and reports. And I mean, the tasks are endless. Obviously, they can't be a dental assistant, they can't be a medical assistant, they can't take blood pressures and vital signs and suction for you, and choose the shade of composite that you're going to be using that day. But everything else that's running in the practice can almost all be done virtually. Obviously, if you have a very small practice, you only need one person, that's fine. But the tasks are immense to run a practice.
Yeah, and one of the inherent challenges of running a dental practice, if you break down your overhead, it's always going to be the largest component is going to be labor. And I'm always a fan of finding the right people, putting them in the right seats. And then as your practice grows, these right people who are so sweet and near, you can see how exhausted they are. You know what I mean? By doing all of these tasks that aren't in their circle of expertise. And so what was your learning insourcing, or outsourcing? What'd you learn as you started to develop this infrastructure? Anything that comes to mind that was a huge epiphany?
Well, like you said, the people that are kind of running your practice, they don't like to do sort of mundane tasks. That's what burns them out, and so what you end up doing when you're utilizing virtual staff is you can really promote the people that are there, move them to sort of higher level tasks, do more to retain them, pay more to retain them, while putting these other tasks of sort of just, for example, sitting on the phone waiting for Delta Dental to answer, have somebody else doing that so that they can greet patients, which I think a lot of people who are in your office love to do. They love the patient interaction, even though they're not sort of caring for the patient, or not suctioning, or making a temporary crown, but they love the patient interaction, the administrative staff. And so you want to keep them as long as possible, retain them, and using virtual assistants allows you to do that.
Yeah, absolutely. And so, so many questions. Obviously, in the Philippines, you went there just to kind of say, I need to see this, make sure this works. Was there a language barrier? Was there a writing barrier, or not so much? Because I have and they're pretty sharp. Like, it's pretty amazing how you don't really feel that gap. But what was your experience?
Well, the first language in the Philippines is English. So, they have Tagalog, which is their language, but everybody learns English from day one in school. So, that is the official language of the Philippines. So, so language is not a barrier. Now, they use different words for different things, just like they do in the UK, for example, or in Australia. But language is not a barrier at all. Not to get around the country, and not to talk to anybody from there. Um, Most of their, they are healthcare oriented country. They care for people. That's what Filipinos are known to do. In many other countries, they employ people from the Philippines to care for people. So they're healthcare centered. Everything there is healthcare centered, and so these. The virtual assistants that I have are generally in the healthcare field to begin with, before we even do any training for them on U.S. healthcare. They're healthcare trained at the outset, whether they're nurses or therapists or physical therapists or whatever it may be, dental assistants or dentists. They're already trained healthcare professionals, and so that's what they do in that country. Those are their main industries.
Yeah, and they act as representatives of your business. It's infinitely scalable, I would imagine. If they ever lose somebody, or it's not, I think about all the people that you hire, you bring in, and you're like, oh my gosh, I've been training them for 4 months and now they've moved or something like that. I think every entrepreneur starts to learn, okay, this is a task that we need to have infinitely scalable. And I'd like to ask you about some of the hows. How does this work? Do you have a software that manages all of it? Do you do it through Trello? I'm curious about the marketing one. A lot of these that you mentioned make a lot of sense. The revenue cycle, the benefits, HR. Oh my God, somebody put a fork in my eye on the HR one. So those are really tough. But other things that require, a little bit more, I don't even know what the word is, but marketing. Give me a little sample on that. What kind of marketing tasks?
Sure. So, in my practice, as a referral-based practice, people don't generally wake up and say, "I need an oral surgeon," right? They generally will say, "My mouth hurts. I got to go to the dentist." They go to the dentist and they see your wisdom tooth's inflamed and you need to go to the oral surgeon. So we're a referral-based practice. Most oral surgery practices are referral-based. Obviously with the internet, that's changed a little bit, but for the most part, they're referral based. So we used to have somebody who would go and communicate with offices on a day-to-day basis, spending every day visiting offices, just saying, "Hey, how's it going, Dr. Smith?" Just checking up, making sure that everything's going well with the patients you're sending over to Dr. Kupferman, et cetera, et cetera. And all dentists kind of know about this. Endodontists, periodontists. Oral surgeons, this is the lifeline of our practices. So in LA, that's not so easy to do. Somebody's got to find parking. In Manhattan, it's not easy to do. In any big city, it's not easy to do, to go office to office talking to these referrals. So, and then with COVID, I realized, because the person that would go office to office decided that she was going to resign. And so I said, well, I'm just going to hire somebody from the Philippines to do this for me and use DoorDash or Uber Eats to send some cookies or whatever it is to these referring offices, and just do that on an ongoing basis. And so that's what I did for marketing. All the other marketing stuff, making brochures and taking out ads or whatever else you're doing for marketing can be done remotely, of course. But visiting offices is harder, or bringing cookies or asking offices is a little harder. But if you think out of the box a little bit and you get a DoorDash account and you call and or you use companies. There are companies that will deliver lunch to businesses. Forget medical or dental businesses. Deliver lunch and have a virtual lunch meeting. There are companies that do that on a day-to-day basis now, especially, and they've taken off during the pandemic because it's much easier to have a company send lunch to 10 people and then meet on Zoom.
For sure.
especially in high traffic areas like California, New York, Chicago, and all those other places. So marketing is easy if you think out of the box a little bit.
Yeah. And I'm just so curious on how you manage all this. Is it done through an app? Is it an agency based type of thing where I would imagine this one person, you mentioned them before, is the point person on all of them. So as new needs develop, you go through your point person, they organize it through some type of communication system. And then, you hear about these, sometimes they don't charge you for the whole hour. They only charge you for time that's used. Give us a little perspective on what you learned through all of that.
So because I'm a larger multi-doctor practice, I have a virtual assistant who manages my virtual assistants because it's a large operation. So internally, we use, our practice management system. We use communication tools. There's so many out there, whether you're using Zoom or Slack or Microsoft Teams or whatever it is, you can do all those sorts of things. So internally, that's very easy to do. Phone systems, soft phones, technology allows this all to be done. Communication, meetings, it's all very, very simple, and you can choose your app for communications and management. From the business side, we have dashboards and platforms that are used to help keep everything together and track the work, track the progress, track the productivity of each and every virtual assistant. So that all exists. It's all there.
Wow, that's awesome. What do most people get wrong about this concept? Because you probably run into a lot of people. I've tried that. What do most dentists fundamentally get wrong about this concept?
Well, I think it's really new, and I think a lot of people generally are hesitant to try something new. Most dentists, they have, say, a smaller operation, and they don't need it. They don't feel that they need it because they've got one person working up front and maybe one in the back, or two in the back, or three in the back, and they don't know that the person up front is overwhelmed and so sort of holding things together on their own, and that they could use a little help and at whatever, if $10 an hour or $15 an hour, whatever it is, they can use that help. So I think that's probably where people get it wrong, is you think that everybody's doing fine until they leave and they say, gosh, I'm working too hard, or I'm resigning. I think that's where I think a lot of people get it wrong, just thinking that it's just not for them, or that I can't do this.
Yeah. One of the things that I learned you can probably speak to this, I took this test. It was called the Colby test. And so I learned I was really good at starting things, but the guy who interpreted it, he's like, you're the worst on the planet on follow through. So I'm like, oh, okay. And what I learned later on was follow through is an incredible part of any business, is making promises and following through. And when you outsource to a great assistant like this, they're relentless about making sure the pieces get picked up later, that promises are kept, that follow-up is made. Is that what you found in doing that? Was that a huge relief for you?
Yeah, tremendous. Just the ability to communicate with somebody who's sort of overseeing everything when you've got like a large enterprise. When you have somebody who's responsible for task management, things get done. And so that's been a tremendous asset, at least for me in my practice.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, how does it work? I got to ask you, how does this work? Do you help other dentists with this? Or is this just in your practice? How does it work? If I'm a dentist listening and I'm 35, Steven, I'm struggling, I'm growing, I don't even know where to start. What would you say to me?
I would say, give yourself a weekend day, hire a virtual assistant, which does not take long. Those things are all done basically via email and a quick Zoom session interview. And then grab a weekend day or a late evening or whatever, and just sort of sit down and tell your virtual assistant all the things about your practice, everything that you need that's not getting done. Think of the things that every dentist has, like, things on their mind that they want to do, and they're just not happening. And just download that, like, in a conversation with your new virtual assistant, and just say, these are the things I want to do. These are my goals. These things I want to get done. And tell them about your practice. Tell them about yourself. Give them the institutional memory. Have it recorded on your Zoom session. Have the virtual assistant record it. They'll store it on your Microsoft account or whatever you give them. And just let them run it from there. Have them start doing their work, and you'll see they'll earn their keep. They want to do it because the job you're giving them is far better than the job they're going to get back home. Yeah, and they're just so honored to be helping. So that, to me, is the way to go. The simplest things like hygiene recall, getting patients in that have treatment plans that are not completed, that the person up front just doesn't have time to do, and all these little tasks that you have on your mind, in your email, in your inbox. Pass them off. They'll get it done.
Yeah. So go back. You said something at the beginning. So are you saying I can just jump on to a Zoom call and that's, I don't have to be really prepared. I don't have to write the entire system. We're just going to record a video and that becomes the institutional memory or system. They'll take that, repeat it, and make them repeatable, scalable processes from you just talking and describing the process. Is that typically how it works for the most part?
Well, that's how I did it. I mean, everybody has the ability to do things how they want to do it. Some people will hand them books and hand them ebooks and things to read. To me, I think, I've always struggled with the transmission of institutional information along the way. I started with one employee in 2009, and the things that I discussed with that employee are gone, right? The goals that I had, the information, that had gone from, employee to employee is a game of telephone, and it doesn't always translate. But if you're having your first session with a virtual assistant, that's all recorded, right? You can record it all. You can tell them everything, and then they'll remember it. They'll watch it. They'll share it with the next virtual assistant, and all that becomes much more scalable rather than just handing them an employee manual or whatever book you have, your standard operating procedure book or whatever it happens to be in your practice. So this becomes much more easy to watch, and it gives your new scaled virtual assistants time to sit and watch. And that first week when somebody's there, like, you don't have time to train them. You expect the person that's already sitting in your office to train the next person, but you don't know what they're telling them. Right. And so during that first week, you can have your virtual assistant watch all these videos that you've recorded with your first virtual assistant.
Yeah, I love this. I have so many thoughts. I'm like, I got to get rid of this. I got to stop doing this. And then I would imagine as an entrepreneur, your brain's going 100 miles an hour all the time. Are you just like totally uploading things or adding things to the list? Maybe on a Sunday morning when you probably should be sleeping, or I'm telling you that because I do that. I'm like, I just got to get this out of my head. It's running around in my head. I just got to get it out. And then they'll take it and run it. And I would imagine a lot of these tasks that you pass to your virtual assistant, they don't go, oh my gosh, do I have to do this type of a thing? They're probably pretty happy to receive these tasks.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. They just want more, they're thirsty for as much work as you can possibly give them, because they know that you'll know if they're not doing something, they know that you'll know if they're not getting things to do. So yeah, it becomes very rewarding.
Yeah. This is awesome. So how does it work? Like, is this your own private service? Is it a public service? Like, is it I don't even know.
Well, there's obviously many companies out there. The one that I started is called MedVA, MEDVA. You can easily just go online to our company, medva.com, www.medva.com, and then, just fill out a little form and they'll get back to you within 24 hours and have, people, virtual assistant interviews and resumes within that amount of time for you to call and speak to and set up interviews for.
Yeah. Same type of thing. You set up a point person, or would you hire individual people? Or you could probably do a combination of both, right?
Yeah, I mean, it depends on your the size of your practice. If you have a large practice, you may want to interview 2 or 3 people, or 4 or 5 people and hire 2 of them. If you have a small practice and you're just looking for one person, just ask for 3 resumes, and usually the resumes come with some sort of like digital video resume, and then you'll just interview them, that day, the next day, and they're ready. The people, at least in our business, they're already waiting. We have people who have already been trained, and they're in a pool that are waiting to be hired. So they're ready to go. So it really just depends on what you're looking for.
Yeah, very cool. I love this. I really enjoyed this a lot. Like, any last thoughts you have on this concept of outsourcing some of these tasks? Anything you'd share?
I think all I would share is, I think that the real innovation is that these are people who are really working for you. You're not as much outsourcing them as you are really just hiring people who are working remotely. They happen to be in the Philippines, but they're going to be people who are working specifically for you. I think outsourcing, where you sort of sign up with an agency and they're answering your calls, or you're faxing them or emailing them information to work on, and they're working on stuff for you and stuff for somebody else. To me, that's not an ideal situation. I think the real ideal situation is to find a company that is going to provide people that are working specifically for you. They are your employees. You tell them what time, what your hours are, what you want them doing for you specifically, and they're working specifically for you, and you take care of them like any other employee.
Yeah, this has been great, Stephen. I really enjoy this. I didn't know what we were going to run into, but I trust my team enough. They're like, no, this is good stuff. You should. So thanks for being on here. I really appreciate it, buddy.
Oh yeah, my pleasure. Thanks a lot.
Yeah, absolutely. So stick around when we say goodbye to everybody else. But hey, guys, if you weren't taking notes, don't worry. We're taking notes for you. So if you're listening on Stitcher, Spotify, iTunes, don't worry about it. Just flip up to the notes. You'll see everything that we talked about is in the notes. There'll be links to Stephen's company, what he referred to. So I'm going to encourage you to check it out. Keep sending us suggestions for things that you guys want to see on the horizon. You're going to see we've got a great lineup coming your way. And until we hear from you, or you hear from us next time, or you see us next time, or whenever we get together next time, you guys keep watching, keep enjoying the Best Practice Show. You guys enjoy your day.